Hey guys, thanks for joining me today in my video blog. Today we're going to talk about a few things you need to purchase a home. Dodd-Frank, the laws have changed. So if you haven't bought a home in the last year, it's all different. So let's kind of chat about what you need and a little bit about the new process. Before we get started on our topic, a couple of things to point out. On the website here we have a instant valuation button. Feel free and take a look at that. Get a good idea of what your home value is worth now, or your neighbor's home value, or the neighborhood you want to be in. Go ahead and take a look. It is an automated process, so it's not completely accurate, but it kind of gets depending on where you are, it'll get a pretty good ballpark. Or you can hit the search all homes in Metro Atlanta button, and that will allow you to look at all available homes on the market. It is updated every 15 minutes. The sold homes are also searchable, and that is updated daily. So feel free and take a look, and then we'll be right back to chat about what you'll need to buy a new home. Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. A couple of things you're going to need to buy a new home. Post Dodd-Frank, post housing recession, and now all of the new paperwork that's in place. If you haven't bought a house recently, and especially in the last year and a half or so, it's kind of changed a little bit. And here's some things that we need to chat about that you need to go over. What do you need? Well, right now it's a very competitive market. You know, in Metro Atlanta, there's about 3.4 months worth of inventory market as a whole. The particular neighborhood you're looking in might even be more competitive than that. And that puts it in an extreme seller's market, which means it's going to be very competitive when you're going in as a buyer. So what do you need to do to make yourself look better than everybody else? What do you need? Well, rather than just get a pre-approval, which is with most lenders not worth the paper that it's written on, we're going to go ahead and get you pre-underwritten. So we're going to go ahead and take your credit score, your taxes, your current income, and run it through the underwriting process and go ahead and get your paperwork flawless so that you can write an offer as a cash buyer because you're already approved. All we have to do is get an appraisal that works, and you are off to the races. Earnest Money. These are these are the dollars that you're going to have to come up with during the process. Typically 1% earnest money. So on a $500,000 house, $5,000 earnest money check is kind of, and you can adjust that appropriately for whatever price point you're looking in. Those are that's going to be kind of what's recognized as normal money for your down payment. It's, you know, I've seen a lot of mortgage products lately. If you can put down 20%, 20% is ideal. You avoid PMI, which is purchase mortgage insurance, which ensures that it's an insurance policy the bank takes out because the down payment's below 20%. You can put down 10%, but you know your payment's going to be higher with PMI. So depending on, I've seen the conventional loans as low as 5% down, and I've seen 3.5% on an FHA loan. All of those have limits, but just use whatever your number is, 10 or 20%. If it's 20% to avoid PMI, understand that you will have to have that as a and we'll wire all of those funds to the closing attorney the day before close. Money for closing costs. Typically, I estimate those at about 2.5%. What are money for closing costs? Well, depending on the property, depending on the contract and the offer and negotiations, the seller may offer to pay some of those. In this market, the seller may not have to because it's very competitive out there right now. So what do you need to make sure you have cash on hand wise? I typically like a 2.5%. I think that's typically a little bit higher than what you will actually need, but it's a good rule of thumb. So you're going to prepay. You're going to pay your homeowner's insurance for the full year, and then prepay the escrow fund, and then pay the property taxes for the current year, and then prepay the escrow fund so that in October, when the next property taxes are due, or whenever you're purchasing your next home, your next home insurance bill is due, the money is already in that escrow account. The bank can just write that check for you. So you have to kind of pre-fund some of those. Your lenders are typically going to have a little bit of an origination, some will call it appraisal fees and all the, they'll call it different things, but your loan origination costs. And those can typically be, anywhere from $1,000 to 1% of the loan, depending on what lender you're using and your current credit numbers. And then a couple of other things you'll need is the cash to go ahead and pay your home inspector. Prices vary. I see from the 400s a lot. I see that number a lot in Atlanta. So it's a good rule of thumb, between $350 and $600, depending on how big the house is. Just keep that in mind. And then the appraisal, which is again, depending on the kind of loan you get, the appraisals can be a little bit different, but typically those are going to be $450 as well for an appraisal. So that, and if you're purchasing a property that is in a community with an HOA, whether it be like a golf course community or a condo community, or just a community that has a pool and covenants and restrictions and an HOA that's a mandatory HOA, you'll have to also, as the buyer, pay for a letter from the HOA that and an initiation fee into the HOA. Typically, initiation fees are 2 months of the HOA dues. It's what I see most often, and then the clearance letter says that, hey, look, all of the dues are paid. We'll go ahead and we are able to transfer. It just makes sure that you don't buy the house, join the HOA, and then owe money because the last guy didn't pay the dues. So, those are things that we definitely want to make sure is taken care of before you buy. Other than that, it's a pretty easy process. Get ahead of the curve. Get ahead of the curve with your paperwork. It's buyers all the time. Oh, I'll get it. I'll get it. I'm easy. I have great credit. I have no debt. Yeah, but it's still a lot of work. Just go ahead. Trust me, it's going to make your life easier, our life easier, and it will make your offer more valuable and more competitive when we go to multiple offers, or when you find the house that you want, that you love, and you definitely don't want to lose it. Look forward to helping you out. Give me a call. Let's go look at some houses. 404-564-5320. I'm Scott. Thanks for joining me on the video blog today, and we'll chat with you soon. Take care.